This is Rostra, the St. Theodore Guerin Junior Classical League podcast, where we bring the lessons of classical study into the light for the benefit of all. Welcome back to another episode of Rostra. We've got Reese Ryan here with us today, and Reese, you're talking about something. It's interesting. Of course, all these topics are interesting. I say that every single time. But it's interesting because we're going to contrast it, I think, with some things that people may think they already know. So first of all, just start off, what is your topic?
So my topic is Roman religious practices.
Roman religious practices. And I think the reason I say I think it may be a little different from what folks think is most people think about the ancient world and they think mythology, and then modern world they're thinking about religion. But the fact is, the stuff that we consider mythology for the ancients really was their religion, right? So it really was their stuff there. So first of all, why did you pick that topic?
I chose it because I wanted to learn more about the Roman holidays and festivals that took place in ancient Rome. And before learning about these things, I haven't learned anything about that, so I thought it would be interesting to...
Yeah, and obviously you're learning that we're recording this during a school day because there's the bell behind us. So, yeah, right. So, that's one of the things about really any program of study, right? You can't get into all of it in a particular class. And so, yeah, we have not really spent a lot of time talking about some of those holidays, those festivals that you were talking about. They're certainly there. We certainly know a lot about them. We just can't get to everything in one particular class. So, okay, start us off. Give us something that you picked up that you think modern folks might not know about the religious practices of the Romans.
So I first learned that the Romans were polytheistic and they believed in many different gods. And the most important practice, or religious practice, was that people worshipped and recognized these many gods that they believed in.
Yeah, so let's stay on that for just a moment. I think for really, so much of the world and for much of time, cultures believed in multiple different gods, exactly what you said there, which is why Judaism really stuck out to people in the ancient world, and then, of course, Christianity. People are coming along going, what, you guys only believe in one God? Well, gee, what a poor culture you must have if you guys only have one God. We've got hundreds of gods who are obviously so much better. And you may have found this in some of your research, but a lot of that came from really looking at natural forces and things in nature and seeing maybe a particular God behind a particular thing. So, there's the sun. It comes up every day. There must be a God behind that. Oh, there's the moon. It comes out every night. There must be a God behind that. And so part of the reason you build up so many gods like that is really it's kind of coming out of nature. So keep going. So you said they've got many gods. Talk to us. Who are some of the gods?
So I found that the Saturnalia and Lupercalia were the two most famous Roman holidays and those connected to the gods that they worshipped.
Oh, absolutely. Saturnalia, Lupercalia. Let's take each one of those maybe in turn. What did you find out about Saturnalia?
So Saturnalia was a winter celebration to the god Saturn. And the Saturnalia festival lasted about 7 days, and it was one of the favorite festivals of the Romans.
So Saturn is this god of harvest, so it's an end-of-year celebration. That's why is typically in December, so after the harvest has come in, you're grateful for all the crops and so forth. It is a big party celebration. And I don't know if you found out what some of the things were. Did you find out anything about what they did during Saturnalia?
So on the day of the festival, a sacrifice took place at the Temple of Saturn, where they worshipped the Saturn god, and it was followed by a public banquet that they all did.
Food, exactly right. First of all, you got a god of the harvest, so of course you're going to be having a lot of food at this thing. They dressed in festive clothing. They exchanged gifts, and it was such a popular holiday because it was the one day of the year where the slaves were technically set free. The slaves actually had their freedom for one day and could enjoy the day. A lot of aspects of that we've found have kind of morphed into some of our more cultural celebrations of Christmas. All right, and obviously Christmas is a holy day for Christians, but then obviously our culture celebrates Christmas as well. Festive clothing, a lot of eating, right? People get time off of work. And so that was so popular then, and some of those aspects have morphed into, like I say, celebrations of Christmas. Now, Lupercalia, that one's a little bit out there, I think, from the modern perspective. So talk to us a little bit about Lupercalia.
For Lupercalia, I found that it was a bloody and violent celebration.
We don't usually think about the words bloody and violent along with celebration, but you said that well. So yeah, tell us about that.
They hoped of like keeping the evil spirits away.
And it was a celebration of. So you're going to remember this. You remember the story of Romulus and Remus, and that they were raised by a she-wolf.
Oh, yeah.
All right. And so lupa is the word for she-wolf. Well, the Lupercalia was really to celebrate that as well, that founding story of Rome. And in fact, it even pops up in Shakespeare's play Julius Caesar. At the very beginning of the play, Mark Antony, the character of Mark Antony, is running in this race, part of the Lupercalia. And you mentioned the fact that this thing could get a little bit bloody. These guys would run through the streets with basically a whip made out of wolf hide, and as they ran through, they would strike people that were lining the sides of the roads. So yeah, it was a little bit of a bloody celebration there, no question about that. So what else have you found that you think folks should know, either about the gods themselves, the religious practices, the festivals, all that kind of stuff?
Well, I researched something on augurs.
Yes.
How they were members of the religious groups.
Yeah.
And they were supposed to observe and interpret signs sent by gods.
Signs of the gods, exactly right. And now this, we have talked about this, and you may recall this, that the Romans, in a lot of ways, were very superstitious. So they wouldn't do anything unless they were sure that the gods' favor was on it, right? So we don't want to do anything that might either anger the gods, or if the gods are going to bless it, it's not going to go well, so we shouldn't probably do it in the first place. How do you know if the gods are on your side? Well, these guys called augurs that you just mentioned, that was their job. Mm-hmm. Right, so these guys look for signs from the gods. And I don't know, did you find out how they determined signs from the gods?
Well, some signs I found were like thunder and lightning and behavior of birds, and then just anything else unusual.
So it's back to nature again, right? So you're really connecting to nature. So one of the things they did was look up at the sky, and they would say, okay, how many birds do we see flying from one part of the sky to another part of the sky? And certain numbers were good or not as good, and certain kinds of birds were better to see or not see. And so they looked at that. They looked at other signs of nature. You mentioned, thunder and lightning. Sometimes they would sacrifice an animal, which was regularly part of worship for them anyhow. And then you would look at what we call the entrails, the inner organs, and say, hey, first off, are all the organs here? Is there any organs seeming to be missing? Do all the organs look healthy? And if yes, then okay, we take that as a good sign from the gods. If not, then maybe we shouldn't go through with this activity. So always checking on the will of the gods there. Okay, so what else, if you were to say, there's something I want to make sure that modern people understand about the ancients and their religious practices, I want to make sure they get this. Is there anything special you want to make sure?
I found that the emperors, during the time, were also chief religious priests.
Okay, and so we're so used to, especially in the United States, this whole notion about some sort of separation of church and state, we sometimes say, and that, which by the way isn't in the Constitution, it's not in the Bill of Rights, it's not anywhere. It's in a letter by Thomas Jefferson, was where that phrase appears. And we're used to seeing a big separation there, right? Government leaders, church leaders, and so forth. Not so in the ancient world. Exactly, the emperors led the ceremonies. They led the religious practices of the whole community. So very, very different for us. So let me ask you this. Did you find out any other gods that they worship besides, I think a lot of people know about Jupiter, Apollo, or people like this. Did you run across any others?
No, I mainly just saw the Saturn god, the Lunar
You're looking at Saturn. I always bring this one guy up because I think it's so funny. In February, they had a festival to the god of rust and mildew. His name was Robigus. And so they had a festival. You go, why would you have a festival about the god of rust and mildew? Well, it was as a way, we don't want rust and mildew. And so you would sacrifice to this god so that you didn't have that kind of stuff, and especially affecting your crops and so forth. So literally they had a god for about everything, and then therefore a reason to celebrate kind of all the time. So yeah. So anything else you want to share with us?
I don't think so.
Wow. Well, that sounds fantastic. Well, Reese, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
And yeah, I think this is going to be a great episode. Thank you for listening to Rostra. You may check out all our episodes on Spotify and follow us on social media at GarenJCL. That's at GuerinJCL.